Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. The saga of Zimbabwe's political chaos, infighting in Zanu PF, continues. What makes it interesting is that the people, the ordinary people of Zimbabwe, have found themselves embroiled in that factional war. They felt they've got to take sides. This is a classical case of somebody who is failing to look outside the box. They've been brainwashed into believing that the solutions are in the box. The options that are being given are the ones in the box. In this particular case, you are being asked to choose between one faction of Zanu PF or the other. There is no other option. This, what I've got on the screen there, is I found it fascinating, where it's apparently a proverb, where the forest was shrinking, but the trees kept voting for the axe. For the axe was clever and convinced the trees that because his handle was made of wood, he was one of them. I think this speaks volumes to our political crisis. 45 years after independence, the country is reeling. Total economic meltdown. The political situation is absolutely crisis. And yet, those responsible for the mess continue conning the people into believing they are there to serve their interests. One of the things that gives us some dismissal of Mnangagwa Vision 2030 as bullshit has done is that it has galvanized Mnangagwa to do something for the war veterans, to buy their loyalty. This was a picture that has been taking the rounds in the social media. There are probably hundreds of thousands of bicycles. And they are supposed to be distributed in Murewa. Just one district supposed to be given to the war veterans. Mnangagwa is doing something to buy their loyalty. What is interesting here is, of course, that we have got a situation here where the country has been independent for the last 45 years. But millions, not talking just of war veterans, but ordinary Zimbabweans too, are living in abject poverty. They are so poor, they cannot afford to buy a bicycle for themselves. 45 years, they failed to buy a bicycle for themselves. One of the other things that Mnangagwa has been doing for the war veterans is by building them this, what we call flat roof, simple housing structure, and then installing balls. So it has taken 45 years for the regime to realize that war veterans are so poor, the government should buy them bicycles. That speaks volumes. The other millions of ordinary Zimbabweans who are just as poor as the war veterans have to wait. God knows how long they will have to wait. In fact, at this rate, one can honestly say they will never get a bicycle. But to come back to the war veterans, they are being given these bicycles. I can guess that in a year's time, a third, maybe even more, of those bicycles will be off the road. Because most of those war veterans will not be able to afford to buy even the tube of one of those bicycles. That's how poor they are. Those houses that the regime is building for them, if even one single 1-foot square pane of glass is broken, they can't afford to buy a replacement. That's how poor they are. It is interesting to see how these war veterans will react. I think the regime knows them too well. That in the past, they've been able to bribe them with even less. And so this bribe will no doubt win Mnangagwa a lot of war veteran supporters. And let's go back to the ordinary Zimbabweans, the millions who are just as poor as the war veterans, and they're not getting any bicycles or house or borehole. Yet in 2017, when Mnangagwa and his group staged the military coup, they managed to convince these millions that Mnangagwa and this group were Democrats. They were going to bring democratic change in the country that the nation has been dying for. And the tragedy is the people believed it. And so when Mnangagwa and company called on the people to come out in support of the coup, they did, and there are hundreds of thousands. What we are seeing here happening today with this Geza 31st March uprising is a repeat of that situation. of the 2017. Geza has made no secret that if they are successful, they want Chiwenga to take over. Chiwenga. And here he is condemning corruption.
Nyika inodzivirirwa nevene vayo, ilizwe lifikirwe ngevanikazi valo. No one is going to come and defend our country except ourselves. A loud and clear no to corruption by whomsoever. Corruption aborts our quest for sustainable economic development, peace and stability. Our struggle for independence was founded on the values of unity and love. These are timeless and ageless values which we must.
And guess what? The people believe him. That's why they are supporting the Geza revolution. They genuinely believe that Chiwenga is a Democrat and is going to deliver the democratic changes the nation has been dying for. It's just unbelievable. When you hear these people speak, you can't believe your own ears. Chiwenga is a thug, for Pete's sake. He was involved in the Zanu PF dictatorship from 1980, when the country gained its independence. He was in the Liberation War. But after independence, he was involved. He was in the army, and he had played his role in establishing and returning the one-party state we have in Zimbabwe today. And he has collected for himself his reward for helping establish and impose the one-party state. He is filthy rich. He was the one who headed the 2017 military coup. It is nonsense for him to pretend that he was fighting. The coup was about returning the country's rule of law and constitution. He was waving, there is a picture of him waving the constitution just a few weeks before the coup itself. There is no chapter or verse in that constitution that says a military coup is legal, justified, and constitutional. And this is here, and yet this is exactly what the coup plotters got the High Court to say after the coup. And surprise, surprise, people believed him. I reiterate what I said before. Mnangagwa was a thug. He was Mugabe's henchman. before the coup. To have believed that Mnangagwa would deliver democratic change and stamp out corruption was so far-fetched, it didn't make any sense at all. Why the people came out in support of the coup beggars belief when you know that they are only swapping one dictator for another. The same applies to this so-called Geza revolution. It is seeking to replace one dictator, one Emerson Dambuzo Mnangagwa, with Constantino Gouveia Chiwenga. How anyone can see that as a solution, as a way forward for the country, beggars belief. And yet here we are. I would like to reiterate what I said before, that if people support this so-called Geza revolution, then they should know that they are making the same foolish mistake they made in 2017. That is the truth. Before I close, I'll just comment on one comment that I've got there on the screen. The only way for Zimbabwe people to wake up is constitution. To be amended in 2030. Sorry, I don't know. I think what he meant there is the only way Zimbabweans must wake up. They should wake up to stop the amendment of the constitution in 2030. This is again part of this mentality of thinking in the box. Zanu PF has been very clever in presenting the people of Zimbabwe with two options. In 2017, it was either you come out and support the coup and we end the Mugabe dictatorship, or the Mugabe dictatorship will continue. Those were two equally unpalatable choices. I totally agree. But the mentality of thinking that those are the only options is the weakness here. Ending the Mugabe dictatorship with the Mnangagwa dictatorship did not solve the country's problems. Indeed, some people have been saying that from the Mugabe dictatorship to the Mnangagwa dictatorship, we were jumping from the frying pan into the fire. How anyone can see that as a solution beggars belief. So those were two equally unpalatable solutions. There was a third solution. The third solution was people should have stood their grounds and demanded meaningful change. Mugabe relented after the coup, partly because of the coup itself, but also partly because with the country's economy in total meltdown, he realized that the economic situation in the country was unsustainable. That is the argument. What Mnangagwa and company did is just take advantage of that. They promised the people that, yes, we'll have democratic change. He even promised that he will hold free and fair elections and he will stamp out corruption. Those were just sugarcoating on the bitter pill. People should have seen through that lie for themselves because they know, we all knew that Mnangagwa was a thug. That Mnangagwa was the man behind all, if not most of Mugabe's tyrannical operations. He was behind Ukurawondi. He spearheaded and does not even deny it, the electoral coup of 2008 and the murderous Operation Mafutera Papi that followed. He was behind the military coup of 2017 itself. And ever since 2017, he has been behind all the threats and murders and beatings, false arrests, and so forth that have been taking place in Zimbabwe. We knew who Mnangagwa was. So to have thought that he was a solution was being naive. We already have evidence of who Chiwenga is. And to think that he can bring about democratic change in Zimbabwe is naive, to say the least. I'll just close with a video of Geza talking about his vision post 31st March uprising.
aiwaga mirani kutauri imwe zvinhu zvinoitika hani ndiri kutokutaurira kurauza kuti hatina kupusaka because ndiri kutokutaurira kuti tozviziva takapusaka ndisikakutauriri zvese we'll deal with this situation at the appropriate time, but ndiri kutotaura kuti commander Mnangagwa, right? Nava Chiwenga, and right? Ngawa dissolve a political bureau. Tikwane is, but it's very true. Ngawa dissolve a cabinet. You know, Zembe, Vana Soda, Vadan, how much you tell about Nikupani? Vanakamba Muda, Vanan, you know, why do you hate your comrades? You know, kunema general, kunema retired CIO wakawanda, kunema retired commissioners of police and other senior officers wakawanda. Aladiwe.
Maybe the president is looking at capacity and capability.
Bullshit. When I'm grade 7, I know capacity and capability. Grade 7. You know, what a beast you're going. Now I was Minister of State, Mangwana Provincial Minister. It's terrible. It's terrible. We are not apologetic about it. Children change. Turn out of Pinda, not out of the president, one was motor, one was you don't have a podcast in.
But you've got your own cars. You've got a hotel at your house that you built in Sanyat. Why do you want all this?
I want to be rewarded as well. Not to be used like a political condom all the time. I'm not a political condom. And urukora wanama hiya waya na wamwa.
My closing remark on this one is that When we waged the war of independence, we should have seriously asked the question, what kind of leaders would an armed struggle throw up? And the follow-up question is, are those the kind of men and women we would want to rule Zimbabwe? I think in Zimbabwe we have had answers to those two rhetorical questions. For 45 years, and we still can't hold free, fair, and credible elections. That says a lot. Thank you very much. Have a good night.